everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Richelle, the real life carnivore. I am hosting the one, the only, Courtney Luna today. She is here. We are going to be talking all about carnivore, all about weight loss, success, not success, because some of us have not experienced the weight loss success that we would like, but I'm also pregnant, so I can't really say that right now because my success was wanting to get pregnant. But I'm really excited to have her here. So please join me in welcoming the beautiful Courtney Luna. How are you today? Thank you for coming.
Hello. Thanks for having me on again. It's fun to chat with you.
Yes, and I do apologize. I'm sorry we're running a few minutes behind, but it is because my little guy decided he needed to use the bathroom. So that took precedence for me.
That's important.
So, yes, it is. I would love if you would start by sharing your story, Courtney.
Yeah, so I am, let's see, almost 3-year carnivore. Started May, so in 3 years, or in May it will be 3 years. And I came from a place of a lot of yo-yo dieting. I went to my first Weight Watchers meeting at the age of 13, and it started from there. And I was always coming at it from, a weight loss perspective and, just trying to lose weight. I think I thought if I was at my goal weight, then I had a healthy body. I was never really focused on health benefits. I guess I just didn't know better. And so I got a little bit warmer to health when I found Mark Sisson. So in 2010, my mom, who was a vegetarian at the time, 25-year vegetarian, got me Mark Sisson's Primal Blueprint. And so she went paleo, started eating meat again. And so I dabbled in that, but I was, in my early 20s. I, again, didn't really care about health too much, but did care about my weight. Got a little bit closer with keto, had success with that. It was never consistent. I was on and off of it, but lost 50 pounds quite a few times doing keto. And I think I finally found the end of the road and what works best for me with carnivore. My husband was sending me Saladino's TikToks, and we didn't talk about it for a month. And then finally I'm like, why are you sending me these? Should we not be in vegetables? I'm like, that's so weird. So university, like so many of us do, and he does his research, and we're like, let's just give it a shot. And at that time, I stopped doing keto. I lost 50 pounds after my second baby, stopped doing keto, got caught up in the anti-diet culture BS, and was like, yes, all foods fit. Everything's on the table. There's no such thing as bad foods. Eat everything in moderation. And I essentially went on a 4-month bender and gained 40 pounds. So when we were looking up animal-based stuff in carnivore, I was in a really bad place. Mentally, I was in a horrible place. My skin was horrendous, horrible acne. And I would just wake up, feel lethargic. I just wasn't feeling good. And I was 55 pounds heavier than I am right now and just not in a good place. So I was willing to try anything. And that's what led me here. Did animal-based for about 5 weeks with the fruit, being mindful of the carb count, coming from a low-carb place. Quickly realized that wasn't working for me, that I was wanting to eat blueberries and fruit when I wasn't even hungry. Went straight carnivore after that, and the rest is history. Ugh, can't talk. And I don't see you. Oh, there you go. I'm like, I didn't see you that whole time. I'm like,
I put you in the solo layout.
I hope you're still there.
Your face. I love your story, and I think it speaks to a lot of people, because a lot of people come to carnivore specifically because they've been keto, they were paleo, they did the whatever IAD or AID or whatever that is. I don't even know what that diet is. Atkins, they've been chronic dieters their whole lives, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm at the end of my rope. Something needs to change. Like what is it that needs to change in order for people to lose weight? And for you, was it just the elimination of I call it food noise, where you're having, the carbs, the fruits, those types of things? Was that the game changer for you?
Okay, so a lot of that cut out. I'm trying to. What was the end?
I wanted to know if the end game for you being carnivore, if that was finally like the ticket for you to be successful in your weight loss, was cutting out all of the food noise.
Yeah, because now in hindsight, looking back at why keto may not have worked great for me is because just having those keto treats, maybe if I stuck with it with like just some veggies and meat, I would have been more successful as, being able to stick to it. But I just didn't get that then. So I would do the keto treats. And I feel like it's so acceptable, at least back then when we did it. This was probably like 10 years ago that me and my husband were doing keto. And I think at least back then, I don't know what it's like now, but especially like in the Facebook groups, cheat meals, cheat weekends, like it was just normal where you're like keto. And then over the weekend, maybe you do something. So I don't know if that was just us or what I was seeing. So I did that. And it was just never, I always struggled to get back on track, or I would erase all the hard work I did during the week with a horrible weekend. So now realizing that I need to abstain from certain foods. I cannot moderate. I can't go, like, oh, hey, let's go get a donut tomorrow morning. Like maybe I could stop at one now. I have a lot of self-awareness and I've like learned a lot, but I'd sure as heck think about it the rest of the day and it would control my thoughts. So just having that self-realization that I'm not a moderator, that I just need to abstain, like that really helped me. And that's what keeps me on track. And I think why carnivore works so well for me, because it's the restriction, if you will, brings me freedom. I know exactly what I'm eating and everything that I eat. I mean, it's not triggering unless I go down, like if I sometimes, have some honey or something or a bite of fruit, which I do sometimes, and that's triggering for me. But a simple carnivore diet, meat, eggs, and dairy, like I can thrive on that. And there's nothing triggering about that. So it's really helpful for my mental health too.
I think the most important part about what you just said too is like finding out what the triggers were for you. So a lot of people understand that word applies to things like emotionally, or physically or mentally, but it's like it also applies in the food category because that does stimulate us emotionally, physically, and mentally. And I love that you're able to identify that so clearly and you recognize that you need to abstain versus be a moderator. There are some things I can moderate, and then there are some things I have to completely abstain from, much like you. Otherwise, to me, they're very triggering, like peanut butter, very triggering for me. I love peanut butter, unsalted, just regular old Roundup peanuts, like probably one of the dirtiest foods out there, according to, all of the new information that's coming out now. Maybe it's old information, I don't know. But I'm like, peanut butter would be a trigger food for me. Fruit, I don't really care. But like, there's something about that just like, or candy, like regular old Dinah sour candies or like any sour candy, like I'm salivating just thinking about it. And it's like, I don't want those things, but my body remembers those things. And it's like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. It was never a good idea. It was never a good idea. So I'm curious, Courtney, how long did it take you to get to the point where you were able to clearly recognize what you were able to abstain from and what you were able to moderate?
Yeah. So, I mean, once after 5 weeks of being animal based and realizing that even that fruit just had a hold on me, I just went strict carnivore and didn't have any of that. And for about 2 years, and it honestly wasn't until recently where I've dabbled in things again, and it's just not a good idea for me. I remember the first strawberry I had after being, very strict for 2 years. We were strawberry picking. We were out in the field. It was a hot summer day. I'm like, I'm kind of just curious, like they're going to be extra delicious. So I'm curious, like I want to taste it. And I'm also curious to see how I'm going to react to it. And so I had one, and then I had another and another and another. And then I found this other bush. I don't even remember what the fruit was. It was different. It was like these small little, I don't even remember. It wasn't like something we normally have. And I kept going back for more. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then we brought containers home. We get home, I'm like, I am struggling to not eat this whole container of strawberries right now. and it consumed my thoughts the rest of the day. And I just realized, like, I can't do that. But then I feel like that was almost like a slippery slope. And now I don't know why it became acceptable in my head to have some bites here or there of my kids' fruit when I get it for them. Because even now, like I even yesterday, like I had a bite of their strawberry. I'm like, why do I do this to myself? You know, like, because now I know, like, I'm going to want more, and it just consumes my thoughts. So that's something I've actually been, kind of dealing with the last few months, is why my brain is thinking, oh, that's okay, you can just have one bite. And I know why it's thinking that, because I'm a sugar addict, but I don't know why I don't know. It's just weird lately. Like, I'm definitely struggling to not have some bites here and there of my kids' food. And I don't want to do that, because it's not like I can just have it and go about my day. Like, it consumes my thoughts. So yeah, I've been struggling with that lately.
Yeah, and I actually relate to you because I also have a little one who loves food as much as I do. He's very food motivated. And there are some times where he's eating something and like I will just mindlessly, like if he doesn't want to finish it and my husband's not home, I'm like, oh, what am I doing? And I have to be very cognizant of it. I also have to be very aware of like where I am, like emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, all of those things. Because if I'm out of alignment in any of those categories, or if I'm overtired, which happens a lot, as you know, with having kids, um, it just puts me in a place where I'm really vulnerable and more susceptible to make choices like that. And I know I'm still making the choice. I know I am, whether it's conscious or subconscious, I know I'm still making the choice. But like you, I want to make a better choice. Like I remind myself, okay, if I have that thing, whatever that thing is. So your example is strawberries. And I'm going to use that example too, because when I got pregnant with my first little guy, I craved them like crazy. I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm like a maniac. This pregnancy has been very different when I've been craving potatoes. Very strange. I'm like, why do I want a potato? I will explain that in a little bit. But yeah, strawberries, like, and I couldn't get enough of them. Like I would sit down to 2 pounds of them and just finish them off. Now, obviously, pregnancy and hormones fluctuations are very different. But still, I had to be very mindful because we had Dr. Tony Hampton in our steak and butter gang yesterday, and I asked him the question because he used to do prenatal care. I said, why do women outside of hormonal fluctuations get cravings during pregnancy? And he brought up a few interesting, the sciencey side of things, but then he also said a lot of it is emotional. Your emotions are revved up when you're pregnant because your hormones are doing everything. They're operating and doing all of these things inside of your body, and they're building another little person. And it made me really reassess how I was looking at food. And I was like, oh, like I've thought about it before. Like I need to think about my food and not be emotional about my food, but I can get caught up in that. Do you find that you get caught up in that too sometimes? Like, are you an emotional eater?
Yeah, definitely an emotional eater. And it's something I still have to work on. I feel like carnivore has made it a lot easier, especially when you're keeping it strict. I definitely find it's helped. But yeah, I even find myself reaching for carnivore foods if I'm stressed. Like there was a period of time there where I was drinking heavy cream out of the bottle like it was like my pacifier. And not even totally realizing that it's like, oh, like I'm stressed out. My kids are stressing me out. And I would like go into the fridge and swig that to like calm my nerves or to get that dopamine hit. So yeah, it's definitely something that I still even have to pay attention to. And I think it's like, maybe it's not normal, but it's common. I think a lot of us are struggling with that because it's like food is such a big part of our culture for everything. You're happy, you celebrate, you eat. You're bored, you eat. You go watch a movie, you eat. Everything revolves around food. So it's almost like we're like being trained to do that. Or like, if a lot of kids, I'm sure, are rewarded with food. And so, you do well at school, well, we're going to go get an ice cream, so it's definitely used in more ways than just fuel. And I do think we should be able to enjoy our food and celebrate with having food and a meal. But I think, yeah, it gets a little like out of control where everything is revolving around food. So of course we're going to have, you know, dysfunctions on how we regulate our emotions when we've probably been even trained by our parents. Oh, you're upset. Okay, here, have this. This will make you happy. This will calm you down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a question for all of you watching, are you an emotional eater or do you relate to eating emotionally? I am definitely an emotional eater. I still am. I'm just over 2.5 years into carnivore, just riding your coattails, Courtney, on the carnivore train. And I still have days where I'm like, wow, I could really go for A, B, or C today. Like, I don't want those things because I know how they make me feel. I know mentally where I'll feel after that and where I'll be after that. But it's like I still notice that emotionally I'm more willing to turn to food than I am to, you know, like my husband or like, you know, God's word or something like that. And I think sometimes we need to really change. That's the scariest part, you know, is like changing that part, because that would mean that we have to admit that there was something wrong with what we were doing. And I think most of us are too prideful to admit that there's something wrong with turning to food and like, I'm going to turn to cheese or heavy cream or whatever the thing is. And for me, yeah, dairy is a very triggering food for me. I love my stupid dairy, but it doesn't love me back. And I'm currently not allowed to have dairy. So you see, like, hear the disdain, the emotional disdain in my voice. And I'm like, not allowed to have it. But I know what it does to my body. I know what it does to my brain. And it's just not worth it at this point. Like, I have a lot of healing to do and it's just not worth it.
Yeah. And I think it's good to also have that self-awareness on when you do want to turn to food. Like, why are you wanting to reach for that? Like, what are you feeling? Like, so let's dig deep and maybe sit with our emotions. I know like that can be like really uncomfortable to just sit there and feel what you're feeling. So like, you don't have to do that. You can like go distract yourself. But yeah, if you're wanting to like have something in that moment, sometimes the feelings like just even too strong. Like before I was carnivore, almost every night for a while, like kids went to bed, I was driving through McDonald's and getting the McFlurry. And some night, like, I knew what I was doing. I'm like, this is absolutely disgusting. I'm getting larger by the moment and I don't feel good, but it's like I didn't care. Like there was zero F's. Like I was just, that's what I was going to do. You couldn't talk me out of it. And I knew it was wrong. So I think, you know, that can still happen sometimes, even with carnivore food. So you know, just being self-aware when you're having a feeling like, why are you wanting to have a certain food right now? Like, why are you reaching for that cheese? Are you really hungry or are you looking for, you know, a dopamine hit? So do you want to sit with those feelings or do you want to maybe go distract yourself, go for a walk, do some push-ups, you know, punch a pillow, do something to like get past that? Cause I think, you know, it goes in like these cycles, or go for a walk and you can tell yourself, okay, maybe I'll have that when I get back if I truly want it. And you probably don't. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do, but just digging to the root on why you're reaching like outside of yourself essentially for that food.
And oftentimes I've found in my experience, both personally and clinically, it's not always what you think it is. You know, and oftentimes we turn to food because we don't feel we can get our needs met through community, through our, you know, our relationships, through reaching out to someone. We think that the only way that we can satisfy that need is to turn to food. And I love the example and like the picture that for me comes up when I'm like thinking of you, you know, going through the drive-through and you're like, I know I shouldn't be doing this. I know that I'm, you know, not helping my body, but there's that part of you that's like, yeah, I don't care. And that's like your brain going, yeah, I don't care. I just want the dopamine. I want to not feel that feeling that I'm trying to, you know, smother with this, you know, McFlurry. It's like the avoidance, you know, is almost greater than the actual emotion itself. But again, I think it comes back to oftentimes it's us being rooted in pride. We're too prideful to admit that we actually need help. We need to work through something. We could be feeling something other than fantastic, you know, but it's true. Everybody has an ebb and flow in their day and in their daily life and in their emotional well-being. And I think that contributes to a lot of why people get stuck where they're at with their weight and such. And so I wanted to ask you, you know, when you came to carnivore, obviously losing weight was a big part of that, but emotionally, how do you feel having changed so much? Because like physically you've changed so much, but you've not just changed physically, you've changed mentally and emotionally. Like you're a completely different person. Like you're even more beautiful now than when you started.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of changes, and I didn't even realize I would have any of these. I wasn't following a lot of influencers at the time. So I think now if somebody starts, they're like, okay, I'm going to go to carnivore so I can heal my mental health or my autoimmune or this or that. Like I just blindly jumped in. I honestly just trusted what my husband was saying. I'm like, okay, let's go. So I didn't even know what to expect. So after a month in, I was previously on Zoloft, and I was on a very high dose, 100 milligrams, and it numbed me out. So I lowered it to 25 milligrams, which wasn't enough. So when I started animal-based carnivore, I could tell a shift in my mental health because my medicine wasn't enough for me at the time. And that wasn't something that I was expecting. So that was a huge win. But then I just learned a lot, like, just overall, my life has improved because it is so much more than just diet. And you have a lot of people talking about other tools that you can use, like in this space. So, morning light and just getting out and getting your movement and putting your blue blockers on. Like, there's just so much more to the bigger picture than just what we're eating. So, yeah, my eyes were open to a lot of things. And even just more so than the health space. I mean, my little slogan is eat meat and question everything. And man, I questioned everything since starting eating this way because it really is like a trickle effect and it opens up your eyes. Like, okay, if we've been lied to about food, what else have we been lied to about? So yeah, I mean, I've changed in so many different ways, more so than even just my mental health and my body comp. Yeah, it's been good.
I love that. And it has been amazing. I wish I could like plaster your before and afters on here. But you guys, you need to go and check out Courtney Luna's Instagram page or YouTube, everything she posts, her before and after, which is like unbelievable. Her face is not even the same face. Like you have the most beautiful, like sculptured face, and like your pre-carnivore face to now, I'm like, I wouldn't recognize you in passing. I'd be like, no, that's not her. Like you look completely different. And I've heard like, seeing your face shape change the way that yours did is a sign of metabolic health. Do you agree?
Yeah, honestly, when I look back, and I'm so glad I have all this old footage because I was showing up on social media before carnivore. So I was sharing like low carb keto stuff. And then I was sharing when I got fat because I'm like, oh, here's what I'm doing. So it's all been documented. Mm-hmm. And I look like I was in a movie and I had a fat suit on. It looks like my face was about to pop. Like it looks painful. Mm-hmm. And I don't even remember looking that way. Even though I was taking the videos and I saw myself, I'm like, holy cow. Like it's weird to see. And it's wild that I'm not alone in that. There is a lot of people out there these days that look like that. And I see myself, my before, in a lot of people. And I just want to, shout this way of eating from the rooftops so you know that this is an option. Like, you can change your life through your diet. And yeah, I feel like you asked me something else and I just went off on a tangent.
That's okay. How long did it take your face to start changing? Like, did you notice a change within the first week, first month?
I don't really know. I feel like maybe because I see myself every day that I didn't see it, but I carry a lot of weight in my face anyways. Like my mom, when I was born, the nurse said, you have a fat cheek baby. So I was like almost 9 pounds, but like I could honestly, like, not to make a lie to this, I could be anorexic and I would probably still have my cheeks. So, I mean, they're there. I have big cheeks, but I see a difference when you can start seeing my dimples a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And so for a while there, they were filled out. And now, yeah, it's in there. So now when I start seeing my dimples, I'm like, okay, I am losing some weight in my face. So yeah, I don't know like how long it like took. I mean, I did lose my first 45 pounds in 9 months. So sometime between that, made a huge difference. But yeah, it's just weird when you're seeing yourself. You don't really see it till like towards the end and you're like, oh, okay, I used to look like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. The changes that happen are so amazing when we cut out things that are causing us inflammation. Because to me, when I see, someone's face shaped like that, and I mean, I live in an area where there is a lot of inflammation, highly inflamed people. Like when I see their faces like that, I'm like, just some small tweaks in your face would, like, you would not recognize yourself.
I know. I see a lot of people. I see a lot I want to save too, or at least, but it's like, how rude would that be if I go up to them and like, oh, you should change your diet, you should try carnivore. But it's like, I wish there was a way, like, here's my business card. Like, I feel like there's no like appropriate way to do that. But it's like, I just see so many people where I'm like, oh my gosh, I just like want to help you. You could eat burgers and steaks. Like, you could eat very, very deliciously. You're probably already eating burgers, I'm sure, and all you got to do is just ditch the bun. So
ditch the fries.
yeah, I just want to save everybody.
Oh, I know. Okay, this isn't a question, but I just want to share. We've got some really great comments. So Todd wanted to comment on moderation is a big food propaganda. It's perfectly normal to not be able to moderate food and drugs that are engineered to be addictive. Those who can moderate them are atypical, which I would agree.
Yes. Can I chime in on this?
Yes, of course.
Okay. This is like one of my big things, because I get people, I've gotten comments like, how sad you can't moderate things, how sad you can't have like a slice of cake. I'm like, would you say that to an alcoholic? Like, how sad that you just can't have one glass of wine?
Yep.
And that's me. I can't have one glass of wine. There's a reason I also don't drink. It's like, why do we need to have these foods, and I use that term loosely, in moderation to make you think that we have a good relationship with food? Some of these foods aren't even food. Like, trust me, I loved an Oreo McFlurry. Clearly, I was 200 pounds, but we shouldn't be eating Oreos. Like, that's not food. And just because I can't moderate that doesn't mean that like I'm the issue. These are designed to be, hit the bliss points in your brain. And yes, I don't get, and this is the thing, people don't think that, food addiction is real, or sugar addiction. So it's just not accepted. When somebody is on drugs, like, you wouldn't be like, oh, you should only be able to do heroin on the weekends. Like, how sad, you do it every day, So until we can all like be on the same page that sugar is addicting and it lights up areas in your brain like cocaine does, then we're never even going to have a common ground if people can't even, agree on that. So.
Right. And I'm with you. I think, the discussion around this, the table needs to be open, the floor needs to be open around this, because I do agree that, Oreos are not food, even though they're trying to make them, vegan friendly and plant friendly. And I'm like, how many chemicals does it take to make this what it is? And it's scary to me. The ingredients here in the US are far worse than the ingredients in an Oreo in Canada. And I'm pretty sure it's the same manufacturer, but it's just different rules and regulations for it to cross the border. Anyway, that aside, their sugar addiction is a real problem for people. Sugar, period, is a real problem for people. Not everyone struggles with that, but then again, like you said, some people struggle with alcohol, some people struggle with drugs. And I'm with you. I don't think it's appropriate to make comments like that to people where it's like, oh, how sad you can't have a piece of cake. And it's like, do you know what that cake does to me if I have it? It's like, the other side to this is also, I think about is like when I was struggling with my disordered eating and people made comments and they're like, you don't look like you struggle with food. And it's like, well, you don't know the internal battle that's going on within my brain and my mind and my body. You don't know that I just binge ate like 10,000 calories of garbage, ultra processed food, because I didn't want to, deal with whatever I was dealing with or whatever. Like, people have no idea the war that goes on inside of you until you get to carnivore. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, why are you doing that? It's so restrictive. And it's like, do you know how restrictive it was for me to live in that jail, that sugar addiction jail that I was in? Because that literally, I was shackled to it for like ever. Do you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that's what's frustrating is, even getting into these arguments with some of these dietitians on Instagram, like, what's her name? Beth Farrico. Unfortunately, she blocked me, so I can't see her stuff anymore. Who else? Like Abby Sharp. like these dietitians that, you know, promote garbage and think that we need to be eating that to have a relationship with food or a healthy relationship, that we need therapy, which we probably all do. I feel like everyone would benefit from therapy, but we need to go to therapy to try and moderate these foods that aren't even food. So, and they won't even agree. Like I've even gone back and forth. Well, they don't agree that sugar is addicting.
Right.
So, I mean, that right there, that's the issue. We'll never have a common ground with these people until they can accept that it's a drug. I mean, pick your poison. I feel like everybody's got a vice. You know, you go to AA meetings, everyone's outside smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee because they're not drinking alcohol anymore. Like we're all, I feel like, essentially transferring a bad addiction or maybe whatever onto another one. You know, people are addicted with working out, going to the gym. I mean, that might be a healthier option, but even that, you know, has its downside. So I think everyone, you know, has something that they're kind of battling, having balance on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Todd also had a follow-up and he said, I just say no to drugs. LOL. Which is accurate because as far as I'm concerned, you know, these things should be labeled as drugs. Susan Hampton also says, I believe I am an abstainer, but I can moderate at special times. I don't eat sugar or sweets. However, I do like strawberries and a Lily sugar-free chocolate chips or bar a few times a year as a treat. I think if you can moderate those things, good for you. Me personally, I don't even know if I want to try and experiment with this because I'd be scared that I'd just go back down the deep dark hole that I was in. But maybe, you know, maybe my mindset will change in a few years. But currently I still don't feel like I'm in a place where this would be even appropriate for me. Where are you at with this?
I mean, if she can have it a few times a year, I would say she's a moderator. And if you don't give it another thought, yeah, for me, I would, like yesterday, had a bite of a strawberry. Horrible decision. I wanted more. And then I did have a few more, but it's just like it consumes my thoughts and it's absolutely ridiculous. Whereas if I have a steak, I'm not like, oh my God, I want another bite of steak, but I shouldn't. But this is like, it's just food and it's delicious, but it's not going to trigger me to have other things. But a little bit of sweetness, like from fruit, I can do. Like I've introduced stevia. So I love my flavored protein drinks, which the first time I did have one, very triggering. And I had 3 bowls of yogurt with strawberry equipped protein. But now I can like moderate those. And maybe because it's not doing something to my blood sugar, like I think insulin, hunger and cravings are like a thing too. So for me, I can do the stevia now, but actual fruit, horrible idea for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm not with you on the strawberry flavor. I think it tastes weird. I don't know if I got a bad bag or what, but the cinnamon roll equipped protein, that's a tough one for me because that is like, I would say that's my kryptonite.
Well, and then it has coconut sugar in it too.
And monk fruit sweetener, I believe. So.
Yeah. I wish they would do like, why wouldn't they just do monk fruit? I don't know why. I mean, the coconut sugar is probably fine for some people, but
yeah,
so hopefully,
that
the peanut butter flavor. I like the peanut butter flavor.
I like the chocolate.
I can't do a jar of peanut butter. I feel like this is the next best thing because peanut butter was, especially on keto, that was my thing. And I'm sorry, I'm not going the rest of my life without having like the taste of peanut butter. So I think having it in this shake form without it being really, I don't know. That's what's working for me. It hasn't been triggering. I haven't opened up a jar of peanut butter.
Right. Hey, and that's a good thing because I can't say the same for myself. Because I like to mix it in with stuff like, you know, I make keto cookies and muffins and stuff for my husband and my little guy because I'm like, well, these are better options than, you know, the store-bought sugar-filled garbage, and I can control what ingredients go in. But it doesn't mean I don't think about that spoon of peanut butter going in my mouth instead of in that recipe. And I love how my house smells when I bake like peanut butter chocolate chip cookies. I'm like, oh my gosh, my house just smells so good. Love that smell. Wish I could bottle it and patent it, but you know I can't. So okay, so CG says, I'm an emotional eater. I've been carnivore for 1 year, but when Courtney mentioned PSMF, I was intrigued to try it. Today is my second day on PSMF. Made me think, do I eat too much on carnivore? Can you talk a little bit about this? I've not personally done PSMF because obviously you know me, I eat more fat than other foods. I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so this came up during, I just did an egg fast, a 3-day egg fast, I guess last week. I don't even know what day it is today. And as I was logging my macros, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's just an obscene amount of fat. And I've done high fat, I eat sticks of butter, but for that day, it was like, I think 230 grams of fat. I'm like, it just had me questioning things. Like, should I be matching each egg per fat? Like, do I need all this? And then it just got me thinking, well, like Maria Emmerich promotes PSMF. Like, I've never actually tried it. I've just always heard comments. It gets a bad rap. I've always heard the negative and I just haven't done it. And now I'm like, you know what? Maybe she's on to something. Let me like go down that rabbit hole. If everyone's going to say, don't touch the stove, it's hot. Well, I need to touch it myself. So I'm like, I just think I need to like try it. So I talked about it in the egg fast and I'm going to start tomorrow. I mean, this might be TMI, but I don't care. I was going to start like yesterday or today. But I wanted to get my period because I feel like it's extreme. Because I'm going to do it 3 days, which in a row, which they don't recommend. So I wanted to get my period first because once you get your period, it's like go time on fasting. And I also wanted a more accurate starting weight. I do gain like 3 pounds like the week before. So I got my period today, everybody. Like the things I tell the internet. So I'm going to be starting tomorrow. And PSMF is protein sparing modified fasting. So instead of doing a water fast, instead of not eating, you are sparing the protein and you're eating protein. So Maria has an online calculator. I got my macros from that. It's very low. So this isn't a lifestyle. This is a tool to put in your toolbox. That is my disclaimer. They say do it 1 to 3 times a week. I think like the 3 times is supposed to be for like when you have a lot of weight to lose. So, and then after, if you've done it for a few weeks, then you need a refeed. So there's like a whole thing to it. I would go check out Maria's blog about it. I'm going to be doing it 3 days in a row for a few reasons. One, I don't want to film this for like a week. Like I just want to like get it done. And I feel like doing it in 3 days instead of over a week alternating, it's just like, here's the answers. Here's the most bang for my buck. Like I just want to like short and sweet, So I'm going to do it 3 days in a row because I feel like what's the harm? People do 3 days of water fasting. I've done 7 days of sardine. I just did 3 days of egg. So what's the harm in me doing this? So my calories are going to be low. They're, I think like 700 and something. That is going to be 30 grams, but the protein I want to say is like around 111 or something. I have it all figured out. I already logged what I'm going to eat over the next 3 days. So we are ready to go. And yeah, so I'm just hoping it's just going to like shake things up a little bit. I've been very open about my struggle to lose these last 15 pounds. And I'm hoping this will just be another tool to get me there. I think it all comes down to shaking things up. I lost my first 45 pounds being equal parts fat and protein. And then I've lost another 10 trying other things, gaining and losing 10 pounds though for the last year, really. So this is the only thing I haven't tried. So we're going to give it a shot and hope for the best.
Yeah, I love that. And as you were explaining protein sparing modified fast, PSMF, I actually remember when I used to compete in bodybuilding, one of the first coaches that I ever worked with, she was like trying to get me to, like lean out much more quickly. And so she had put these, what she called no fat days in my program. And it started out as 1 day a week and then ended up being 2 days a week where I was eating about 800 calories, all lean, like egg whites only, chicken breast with green beans, no fats, no oils, nothing. And I remember those being the most miserable days for me, but I was also already
right?
Yes, but I was also already in a deficit because I was preparing for a competition, and so there's a lot of work that goes into that. I was, working out twice a day. I was doing all of the things that I had to do, so I was constantly in the state of deficit anyway. But I would love to experiment with something like this, like postpartum, and just see how it goes, because I think it's very interesting to see how people's bodies respond to different stimulus, and sometimes you need to mix things up because we can get very dogmatic and very stuck in our ways of like, nope, I'm only going to eat 6 eggs for breakfast with 3 pieces of bacon and then an 8-ounce steak and an 8-ounce steak and 1 stick of butter. Your body needs variety. You know, your stress level and your sleep is not the same every single day and every single night. So you need to mix things up, shake things up in order for your body to be like, oh, I don't need this. But I want to talk about this because you said, you know, you've been like kind of wrestling with this last like 15 pounds. What are your thoughts on weight set points? And have you heard that term before?
I don't even know what that means.
Okay, so we talk about this in the Steak and Butter Gang, where sometimes what can happen is we can get to what's called a weight set point. So it's not that our weight is meant to be there, but we get set at that point for a particular amount of time while our body is like triaging and prioritizing and healing processes and whatever else, which can be really frustrating because for some people that scale is 25 pounds. They can be 25 pounds in this direction or 25 pounds in this direction. They could be higher or lower. And so I'm wondering if maybe that's potentially something that's going on for you, where you're just kind of at a set point where your body's like, all right, I just need to be here for just a little bit longer just to heal some things before it like really cascades into like what your body's idea of ideal weight is. But at the same time, I love that you're willing to experiment and try things to see what's going to work for you. Sorry for the cat. What's going to work for you and what's not. And I love that you're incorporating variety. Do you have any thoughts on that now that I've kind of explained it?
Yeah, I'm going to plug my ears. I'm not listening to my body. If it wants to be here, we are not. Honestly, I've been here for 2 years. Like the last 2 years has been, I'm only down 10 pounds in the last 2 years. And I totally get that. And I know, like I was talking to Kelly Hogan, she essentially had like a 5-year stall. So there's so much more I feel like that goes into weight loss than just what we're eating and just calorie deficit. I do think calories matter, but I think there's such a bigger picture. So yeah, maybe my body's happy where it is right now. And that's why it's more challenging, but I'm not happy where I am right now. And I think that's okay. I get a lot of comments like, oh, like maybe your body just wants to stay there. Maybe this is your weight, this, that. I'm like, okay, thank you. But no, thank you. Like I don't want to be here. I have excess body fat. I have a big tire around my stomach still. Like I have visceral fat. So I'm determined to get this off. And yeah, maybe it's not ready, but I'm going to try and force it. I don't know. There's so many other things that it could be. You know, I had labs done and like my thyroid was like a tad low. And there was also a marker that showed that there could be something going on like Lyme, mold, or an infection. So I didn't even dig deeper on that. I did get supplements like a binder and stuff to get rid of it. And then it made me nauseous. So I haven't even like tackled that. So yeah, there's a lot of things that could be going on too, why my body doesn't want to get rid of it. So I don't know. We'll try this. We'll see what happens. Maybe I go back to the supplements with like the binders and stuff and just deal with the nausea. Maybe that's what I need to get my path back on track. I don't know. I think it's all just, you know, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks and changing things up and keeping your body guessing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's so interesting to me. You just mentioned about your lab work or whatever. And I'm going to do a video on this for you guys, but like sometimes with carnivore, it's not the only thing. Like it's not the magic pill that's going to resolve absolutely everything. And I love that you mentioned that maybe your thyroid is a little bit low, because I was just recently diagnosed with hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's. And I was annoyed. I was super annoyed because it's like 20 years of trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with my body. And, you know, one doctor looks at it and she's like, oh, this is what the problem is. But it didn't just happen overnight. Like it was like a compounding of events that happened. And then all of a sudden I was like, hey, my skin is getting worse instead of better. I've been carnivore for over 2 years. Like, why is this happening? Why are these things getting worse? Like, you know, all la da 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 da. And I just decided, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to work with Dr. Elizabeth Bright and just see what she says. Just super curious. And what she actually said kind of struck me because I wasn't expecting it. When she diagnosed me, I was like, well, I've never been officially diagnosed. She's like, no, I'm officially diagnosing you right now. And I said, well, how did this come on? You know, because I've had all of these things. Like I had a benign pituitary tumor, 2 types of PCOS. Like, you know, I had like elevated prolactin, which is the lactation hormone. I was like, what? Like, I don't understand. And she's like, all it took was me getting pregnant to trigger it fully into Hashimoto's. And I was like, why? And she's like, because your body's seeing it as a stressful event. So because I have a history of miscarriage, she said that's almost always related to that. And I was like, oh my gosh. So my goal coming to Carnivore was to get pregnant. Now my goal working with her is to get pregnant and stay pregnant without needing a supplement, because I currently still need supplements. So you're talking about, maybe needing to take binders or supplements. I think they have a place. I don't think they always have a place. I don't think we need to be taking, vitamin C and all that kind of crap. Like, I think there are certain things that we do need to take in order to support our system. And for me, it was letting go of the dogma that carnivore can be enough, because apparently for me, it's not. It's not. Like, there's a reason why my skin got so much worse. And I was like, why is my skin getting worse? Like, I used to have beautiful skin and now it's awful. And it's like, oh, it's because it's an alarm bell in your system. And like, now that I'm learning that, it kind of changes how I look at it and how I approach things. So, and to Ellie's comment, I'm just going to pull her comment up because I think it's applicable to you and to me. She said, I'm stuck at my set point, 190 pounds at 5'7". I carry it well, but I am struggling losing the weight. I had gotten down to 167 after my miscarriage. I had a couple of months off of carnivore. And this was something that, even as I'm reading it, like, I relate to her because I'm the same height. I was the same weight before conceiving. If I'm not on carnivore, I can maintain like 165 pounds lean. But if I'm on carnivore, I'm like 190 pounds. And I'm like, why am I so heavy on carnivore? I'm trying to still figure that out. I'm going to talk to Dr. Bright about it. But I think it's very interesting that my body felt that it needed to gain all of this weight in order to do what it's doing. Anyway, I don't know. I'm saying all that to say that I try not to get too hung up on the number, because while I'm 190 some pounds, I was still a size 8. So I'm like, can I really complain about the number? Like, is it really about the number on the scale, or am I really putting and pouring my value as a human into what that number on the scale says? And maybe that's a question that we need to ask ourselves too. What do you think?
Yeah. And I don't think, the number on the scale is everything, because of course, like, your body can be different. But yeah, I just think it's like also good to have a goal, and it's just a marker. But I am curious then, like, what does your group say when you're at your set point? Do you keep doing what you're doing? Do you take a diet break? Like, what's the answer to that then?
So it really depends on the person and how long they've been at the set point, but there are so many different levers that we can pull. Like, you could try doing a micro prime or a mini prime. You could try fasting if you haven't tried that. You could try, like adjusting your macros, like all of the basic things that we would think to already do, but we have to give it longer than 6 weeks, because it can take 6 weeks for our body to adapt to some sort of change. But I think that that's, again, where we kind of have to be very mindful and cognizant, because people are looking for the results yesteryear. They don't want to wait and let their body adjust to something. I remember when I used to compete, and I would be prepping for a show, I would do it over the course of 12 to 16 weeks. The longer the prep, the better my conditioning would be. The shorter the prep, the more difficult it was, because I had to be more drastic and dramatic about it. And I'm not saying that this is, you're preparing for a bodybuilding show or anything like that, but the same concept applies. The more time you give your body to adjust and adapt to something, and the more slowly you implement it, the more slowly the weight comes off, and the more sustainable it is long term. And I think that that's sometimes what we get caught up in, is going too much, too hard, too fast. It's like the people who think that they just have to carnivore harder. Oh, well, I need to go the strict lion diet to get to my goal. And it's like, yeah, you might need to go lion diet to help you get to your goal, but is that the only option? Is there another lever that you haven't pulled? And then once you've pulled all of those levers, if you're still not getting there, looking at your labs, assessing, is there something off? Like, how is my stress? Because stress is like, that can make some people fluctuate 20, 30 pounds of fluid in a day, depending on how their stress is. Your sleep, are you sleeping at night? And are you sleeping well and waking feeling rested? If you're not, that's going to add, a circumference, waist circumference. And we don't want to expand in our waist. We want to shrink in our waist. So I think there are just so many different levers that people can pull. But like I said, I think a lot of people just get impatient with the process. What do you think?
Oh, there's a lot of impatience because I see those comments and messages all the time. Like, I've only lost 16 pounds in a month. I'm like, excuse me, like that's amazing. Or the scale has stalled for 3 weeks. What do I do? Like, how do you nicely say, be patient and give it some time? Like, what are you doing? This is like insane. You guys have taken, months, if not years, to put on all this weight and you expect it to come off overnight. So yes, definitely need to be patient. Because it takes time. Oops. And I get the frustration because I mean, look, I'm 2 years now struggling to get to my goal. A lot happened in 9 months, lost 45, but these last, pounds, like it's a struggle. So I get it. You want it to happen overnight. But yeah, I think a lot of people need to just like relax and also just know that losing 1 to 2 pounds a week is normal. And yes, of course, in the beginning, if you have a lot to lose, you're going to lose a bigger chunk, but the average is 1 to 2 pounds. So if you're saying I only lost 16 pounds in the first month, like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Don't say only, that's a lot.
That's 4 pounds a week.
Yeah. Like people need to be a little bit more realistic and understand like how weight loss works.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think there's a missing link for what is realistic and what is feasible. And I like that you brought this up as well, that we didn't get to this weight overnight. We didn't get to this level of unhealthiness overnight. It took years of compounded interest, if you will, of poor choices, poor lifestyle habits, and just not caring. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier when you mentioned going through the drive-through, and it's like, I know this is terrible for me to eat this McFlurry every single day, but I don't care. I don't care. And until we get to the point where we do care, like, which is where the point is that you're at and where I'm at, those things are not going to change, and we're not going to seek solutions. We're just going to seek to placate ourselves, to just kind of like, make ourselves docile about it, to just kind of mask over it. We're not going to seek solutions. So I love that you're so willing to try things and you're so willing to seek solutions, because it's encouraging. There's comments in the chat here. People are like, you've inspired me to try this also. I'm going to do it for 3 days a week. I'm going to do it on the days I used to fast. I think that's awesome, Jeanette. I think that's wonderful. And kudos to you. Also, Ellie wants you to know she made you cinnamon rolls, and they're absolutely delicious. Yes, they are. I'm not allowed to have them because they contain dairy, but they're so good.
It helped with her constipation too. Amazing. That's what I'm here for.
Yay! All about having smooth bowel movement. Yeah, I do have one question, and then I'll wrap us up because I do know you have to go. It's from Vidya, and he says, share some more winter season raw diet for liver health issues. I'm not sure if your question is about eating raw meat, but we can start there. Do you eat raw meat? Do you eat raw liver, raw organs? Have you ever tried it? The raw meat thing, the raw fat thing?
I mean, I'll eat carpaccio and tartare at a restaurant, but I don't usually do that at home. Yeah, I just don't typically eat raw. I do like my steak medium rare.
Mm-hmm.
So I am getting a little bit of, I mean, it's close to raw in the center. But yeah, I don't partake in the full on raw diet.
Yeah, it's definitely a trend right now. I've seen a lot of people, especially our lovely Bella, loving to eat her raw steak. I don't know if I could eat raw steak, but I did while I was doing part of my protocol was to do a strict lion diet for 2 weeks, and I was craving liver, and I was like, hey, if I'm craving stuff, that's and then I'm craving liver, that's pretty significant. So what I did was I just took liver and I cut it into like little teeny tiny pieces. And I put it on parchment paper and I froze it because I don't like the smell of it. I don't like the taste of it. The only way I like to eat it is if it's in pate form, which my recipe has dairy in it, so I can't currently have it. So if you have a good recipe for liver pate, I will gladly take it as long as it is butter only, dairy free. But yeah, I would plug my nose and put the pieces in my mouth, and then I would just shoot water back. And I mean, I felt great. Like I had an immediate boost of energy. Immediate calming of the cravings, and I was like, okay, well, my body clearly needs this. Obviously, I'm breastfeeding, I'm pregnant, and my body's trying to heal, and just a lot of demand. lot of demand. So question for all of you guys watching, have you considered or have you tried eating raw meat or raw organs? Go ahead and pop it in the chat. And Courtney, as we come to a close, I want to thank you for just being such an amazing person and such a open and transparent and vulnerable gal. I love hearing your story because you're so willing to be like, these are the things that I struggle with. And I also just want to add, I think it's just so refreshing to me to see because you're not hung up on the stigma. You know, like some people are like, I can only ever do this. I can only ever be lying and I could never ever include anything else. And people get all triggered about it, you know, like I'm just thinking of like Jennifer Geeser, it's delighted to meet you. And she's like, sometimes I eat apples now. And I'm like, good for you. Like, good for you. I'm so glad that you healed enough that you can eat an apple now. So do you have any final closing thoughts on that? And I would love it if you would shamelessly plug about your amazing cookbook, which if y'all don't have it, get it. Get a copy of it. It's the best damn cookbook I've ever had in my entire life. Go ahead, Courtney.
Thank you. That's so sweet. Yeah, I would just encourage anyone to find what works for them. And I think carnivore is a great tool, and it can even be just a good elimination diet. And then you can add things back in and see how you do, or you can just stick to it. A lot of us just stick to it because we feel so good. But I think just having that self-awareness on what you can have if you're going to add things back in and how it makes you feel, and just go from there. So yeah, my book is, I don't have one near me, but I can pretend I'm holding it up. Carnivore in the Kitchen. It's online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Target, online on those stores. You can check Barnes & Noble. Thank you. Online.
Screen you.
I love it. It is in some stores in Barnes & Noble. So if you go on their website and check out the store locator, if you are in Canada, it is on Indigo too, and it's in quite a few Indigo stores last I checked. So yeah, I just appreciate, you know, everyone that's grabbing it. It's a great way to support me, and I appreciate it. And it helps to get the word out. Like the better the book does, the more people will see it, the more people can, you know that carnivore is an option. So thank you.
And how can people get in touch with you? How can they find you if they want to follow you and support you on your journey?
I am on all the platforms. It's Courtney Luna, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube is just Courtney Luna, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook. I'm everywhere. Come say hi.
Awesome. And I will drop Courtney's contact information in the description box below. Please go and like and subscribe and support her. Please go and get this book, you guys. I'm not a big book pusher, but I'm pushing this book like it is the book. You need this book. So, thank you so much. And I look forward to doing this again with you sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.